host of the Sam Myers show, and I'm going live. Kind of cut off a little bit. So, hey everybody, what's going on? It's your boy Samin. I'm gonna welcome you to a late. This is the late edition. I'm on a late edition of Sam Myers show. I'm just gonna let you know that right now. What's popping off in my life right now, and since this is my living room in Cyenne's home on break, and my dear lady is still at work. Well, not at this moment, but she's still working. It's working. The only person who has a break is me, and I appreciate it. It's good stuff. It's good stuff, and I got caught up. I got extra late. I walked the dog at 10, and I don't know what made me look up. I don't even know what I was doing. So the phone went off, so that happened, and like Pavlov's dog, I'm like, oh, must look at this thing, and I'm looking at this stuff, and I'm looking at my phone, and the next thing you know, I'm some dude named Ted Smooth. I think I should know him. He was playing. I think he's from the Bronx. I'm almost positive he had a Bronx vibe. And I mean, I kid you not, he's playing this music that just took me back to. It took me back to when all was good. And as an adult, I look back at that time and I clearly see all wasn't good, but I didn't know that. And I was just this kid listening to music. And so I got caught up, I mean, literally like a half an hour on Instagram listening to like his playlists, and he's dope. The DJ from the Bronx. I'm sure somebody's looking at this and be like, son, you have to know who this is. His music was extraordinary. Then I went over to Kid Capri, and next thing you know, I was just doing that thing, right? Swipe, swipe, and I was like, don't you need to do some? Don't you need to do some stuff? So here I is, and thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging out a little bit with me. It's gonna be short. Um, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. I wanted to talk about that. It. I watched it the other day. I am a big fan of August Wilson, the late great August Wilson. I'm a fan of him in a way that I'm not like a super fan or an extra special fan. I'm a fan of his work, and I know in some arenas he doesn't get the credit he deserves. Right, so I'm a theater. I have a BA in theater, and that was my major was theater. My minor was film, and then I would go to school for film, MFA. The BA was reading, right? I didn't know that. Lots of reading, but what worked with my situation, my condition, right, of my dyslexia, my how I absorb information, written words, is plays worked well for me because it was the plays were from a person's point of view, like the actual person, a character. The It wasn't about the incident. It's not academic reading, which I've had to do, and that is draining to me to read something that's academic, not just for the vocabulary. The intention of it is not to be absorbed by, I was going to say layman, but like me. It's just not. It's written in a certain way that is for certain people to read, and it's not to be enjoyed. You don't lay back and like listen and read it over and mark it up. You don't do that. But with plays, I was able to read these plays, and I read a lot of plays. I didn't realize that I was going to have to be reading so much. I somewhere in there, I was like, I'm going to become an actor. You know, that rapper, actor, too short for basketball, but it was going to be something in that world. And what was great about it, I got to read a lot of plays. And what was dope about living in the city is I could read a play, Cherry Orchard, right? Anton Chekhov, which is a really good play. And it's about like aristocrats losing their money and they don't want to sell. And it would work in today's time. But I could read a play and then I would see something in the paper, or it would be playing locally, or it would be playing on 42nd Street, which wasn't just 42nd Street I grew up loving. I loved like the old sticky 42nd Street that was like a little greasy and grimy. I really appreciated that. But when I got older and now with Cyan, I love Disney World 42nd Street. She, when we go out there, she likes it a little. She likes it more than I do. But I see the difference. But my point is that I would read these things and they were there. So the moment that I never recognized any. I didn't know. I wouldn't know what the cherry orchard represented if I didn't have I not have read the play. I wouldn't have understood that that was like a classic play, the history of this person. I mean, that type of stuff. So I would read it, and then I could go see it, and I could read and see what people, how actors would interpret the text back to Ma Rainey, right? So all of this stuff, but never did I have an opportunity academically for credit in school to read August Wilson. I had to connect to that on my own. My late wife introduced me to August Wilson, and when she gave it to me. First, I was like, for real, I don't need anything else. I got these many books. I got to read this Shakespeare stuff, and I got to do this. And she's like, just read this. So I read, and the first thing I ever read was Fences. Fences is without a doubt an American classic, best written text that I've ever read, ever. This is the best thing I've ever read, right? It captures life in a way that it gives you, and this also his way of working. August Wilson, right? August Wilson, Fences, Pulitzer Prize winning play. He writes in a way that you get it, and he speaks about the Black experience, and he speaks about oppression in a way that the piece isn't about the oppression, right? The oppression is apparent and is like woven in to the fabric of the quilt of the piece, right? So you can't have this piece of work without acknowledging that the oppression is woven into in this blanket, let's just say, right? But it's the artwork, and it just expresses the Black experience, which for Black people, a lot of us, not all, kind of get it. Like I get it. Like it's like a call and response. I'm from the hood. You from the hood. I'm from this. I'm from. We kind of connect beef and broccolis. Like, what's beef and broccolis? There's some people. If I say, yo, I had a pair of beef and broccolis, and dude stepped on them, you'd be like, well, you would know we stepped on them. What is that? But you would understand that at a time and a place, those were a pair of boots that we as a people wore, and nobody else wore them or it called them that. So it's a cultural call and response to his work, and it's just extraordinary. It's just extraordinary. Fences was really extraordinary. It really broke down man and woman, father and son, his father, and the main character, and then Denzel did it over. And I saw it. So I saw the play. I read it myself. I cried. There were a couple of scenes that I cried, and because it just was touching and was like, wow, that's incredible that somebody could actually write something like this. And I saw the play with Denzel, and I saw the opening day he did it, right? Now, my experience in going to plays outside of intentional, like maybe Top Dog, Underdog, right, which was the Black play written by a Black woman, and everybody kind of travels around it, but we intentional about certain things. But I spent a lot of time in theaters, whether it was on 42nd Street or whether it was at Joe's Pub or just some spot around the corner, being even Signature, which is August Wilson's theater now. Not a lot of Black people. Not a lot of Black people for a lot of different reasons, right? A lot of different reasons. I was reading the stuff, and this was the world I was entering. So paying $115 didn't represent much because it was like research. $115 could feed you for a week. So that's facts. And I do you remember like Raisin in the Sun and Puffy was involved, and I don't know if he was in it, but I know he was producing it. I don't think he was in it. Maybe he was though. I didn't see that. That was a big buzz for people of color. Black people were in the theaters. When I saw Fences with Denzel Washington, there were a lot of black people in the theater. It was. I was going to say it was uncomfortable. Now I was going to say it's uncanny the amount of black people that were in the theater. And he was doing his work, doing some stuff, and he played some scenes that I read, but he played them up and made them funny. They weren't funny. They were tragic. Tragic. If you read the words in between the lines, these are the track. There was one scene where he was Denzel speaking about himself as a young man, had a girl like on a lake or a creek or somewhere, and he was getting ready to have sex with. He's young and she's young. They were just getting ready to do things that they shouldn't do. His father came and ran him off, and he ran off thinking that his father didn't want him to have sex with the girl. And then after a while, he came back and he saw that his father was trying to rape the girl or have sex with her. Maybe it wasn't rape. He was trying to rape the girl. And he fought his father. Right? That's the written words that are there. You read and you visualize it yourself, and it's terrible. And the way Denzel played it, he played it up so people in the audience laughing at this thing. I'm not laughing. I'm bothered because it's not funny. And it's not funny because it's not funny, and it wasn't written to be funny. But he's playing to the audience. And now this is in the space of, where do black people go to theater a lot? Now, I could be wrong. It's Medea, right? They were expecting, like, I got a man dressed as a woman pulling out guns and whatever that. He was playing to that character, to that platform. And then, so as I think about it right now, it's trauma. And we laugh at trauma. I laugh at trauma. I can't speak for anybody else. I've laughed or suppressed the situation with trauma. So, yeah, I've suppressed it. It wasn't as serious. It's just his life. This is how it is. How we do. All of that type of stuff. But in this space of August Wilson writing about the black experience and Denzel. So Denzel played the character, and then I saw it another time, and he didn't perform it that way again. I don't know if the director got it. He performed it the way, like I'm some master, the way I envisioned it should have been played, right? But it took him time. It took him time to get it, and then eventually he would make the movie, and I don't think it won any awards. It was nominated, should have been. I don't know if it won. Point is that it's become his name, August Wilson, and his work is becoming more publicly known. And it's unfortunate that it's not. And I've had situations where I was going to see things at Signature, and I would tell someone, and they would be like, "Who?" I'm like, "I'm going to see this," and they're like, "Who's that?" August Wilson. I'm like, "August Wilson, who?" And that's just a whole nother topic, right? So, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. So I watched this the other day, and I love it. 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 I'm a groupie for August Wilson because he writes dialogue that sounds like my uncle talking, or sounds like me talking, or sounds like, got to put myself in there, but it sounds like people I know and I'm familiar with the vibe. August Wilson and Donald Goins. Donald Goins also writes about the dark side of the black experience. And he wrote one of my favorite books, when I really started to understand that I could read things and visually see them. Donald Goins, he wrote this book called Dope Fiend, right? Which is, I'm familiar with dope fiends. And it was the first time that I ever cried from something that I was reading. It was reading Dope Fiend when this woman had done ungodly things for drugs, right? She had done, it was a terrible act. But she was a fiend and she didn't have money. And someone made her do something that's just god awful. And they gave her the drugs. And she was going to shoot it up. And she was cooking it with the spoon. I say, I want to speak like everybody knows what I'm talking about. There's, there's many different ways you could do it. I've seen these spoons in my environment, right? I've never actually seen them used, but I've seen enough movies to understand. I've seen the Burt spoon, like in my home. Like, what's that? And my mother didn't shoot heroin; she sniffed heroin. She didn't burn spoon, but I had people in the house who did, right? So not she, but so the woman, yes, she had the spoon, and she had the powder, she had the liquid, she had burnt. You boil it like science, right? So she's like doing this thing with the drugs, and she puts a syringe in and she's pulling it out. Something happens and she drops it. It doesn't go into the needle. It all falls on this floor, on this raw wooden floor, unsealed, and it just absorbs the liquid, everything into the floor. It's done. I started crying. I started crying because it was just like having been on that adventure with her, doing what she had to do to get it, to now have it wasted. What are you talking about? Why would you write that? So, and it was the first. I was like, oh, I was so, and I started reading all these books. Nothing else was as good as that for me. And maybe that was because I have some personal connection to dope fiends. That's me. Maybe I have a personal connection to that type of life, right? I do have dope fiends in my family, in my life. I've had that. And I understand, the ones that kind of, the voice. If you start nodding off but never fall, the cigarette on the edge of the lip, always, but never fall. Nothing ever falls. It's just lean, but never fall. So I understood that. So Donald Goins was really great at that, but really raw. August Wilson's creation of these works are unbelievably like this rich and beautiful. And this idea of the black experience for me, when I think about it, even that phrase, that sentence of this is the black experience is not for black people as much, right? Even that phrase, because we kind of have it. We understand. I understand what is meant by the idea of having a black experience. I get it. I completely, without question, understand everything about the black experience. Not everybody does. And when you think about there's like how delicate or undelicate, how would a white person really get an introduction into the black experience without have access to a black person? Because there is a space for people to actually believe that life is just like this. It's just so. We work at the same job. Our kids may go to the same school. How is it that you have a different experience? You know what I'm saying? Like, is it intentional that I'm just not looking, or are they not asking? I have a few people in my life, white women, who one completely gets it. Our parents were lawyers, and they were all like in the segregation, civil rights lawyers, and the whole nine. She has an understanding. That's a good she has a great understanding. And then I have another friend who doesn't have that level of understanding, but has the desire, and has actually made the request to say, listen, if there's something that I'm not getting, like, because this is what I know, and I get that this is BS. I get that there is racism. I get that there is a inequality. I get that. I understand it. I see it. But in our relationship, in our life, are there things that happen that you experience that completely go over my head? And it was once that it was once that it was really something that had it was light. We have park talk about my school, right? At our school, the kids we parked and drop our kids off. We don't do that today. It's not the same today. But it runs out of parking spaces, and we kind of create six more parking spaces, right? You know, 2, 4, 6. It still leaves room for cars to go around. If you had 8, it would be too tight. Somebody who couldn't drive would have to maneuver. It would become a thing. But 6 you can get. So one day I pull in, I'm late. I have to get one of the 6 imaginary spots. Real, but they're not real. But a cop is there, and I don't understand why the cop is there. I noticed the cop being there, right? Obviously. Might not be obvious for everybody, but it's definitely obvious for me. I see the cop there. It's the day after my birthday. My license expired the day before. I know it expired. I'm not going to get my license renewed until Monday, and I think it's like Wednesday. So I got it. I'm not playing that game, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to drive with my expired license. See the cop, I park not there in my usual spot that I would park. I park in the bricks. Like I'm almost in another town because that's what's left. So we meet up, we're talking, and she's going to her car. She's like, "Where are you parked?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm parked over there." And she's like, "Why? Why would you be parked over there? Like nobody parks over there." I'm like, "Well, you know, there's these spaces there." She was like, "Yeah, why didn't you park there?" And I said, "Because there was a cop there." And she says, "What?" I was like, "It was a cop there." I was like, and my license is expired. My license is expired right now. She's like, "Okay." And I was like, "Yeah. See, remember when you asked me to point things out to you? That's one of the things that is nothing and is everything, right? Because it is nothing for you to feel that way." And she got it. It wasn't a big deal. She was like, "Oh, that's one of those things." I was like, "Yeah," because for me, I will play that all the way out. Why are you parking there? That's not a parking spot. But we always park here. You know what? Let me see your license. Oh, your license is suspended. Your license is not suspended. Your license is expired. How did you driving without, whatever violation? This is the 409, whatever. I have to be responsible for that and not provoke the flames. And that's part of the black experience. Now, I'll take 100% credit. Dude, why didn't you get your license renewed? It took all of 20 minutes. Plus 20 minutes to get there and 20 minutes to get back. An hour. It was done in an hour, right? So I'll be responsible to say that. And it wasn't a big deal, right? It wasn't a big deal like, "Oh my God, I got to park over here because my But it was one of those things that I pointed out to my friend that she got that, and that's low. That's a low grade. That's nothing. That's almost nothing. But it could end up being in the world everything, right? Like I've seen black men killed. Video. Now this is way before that even happened, but for actually nothing. I don't need a reason, and so that started that conversation. So that's in the world of the black experience. But I love how he really shows the black experience in a way that isn't like woe was me, woe was us. It's just like this is the what is. So eventually I will talk about Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Written by George C. Wolfe, who is a top ranked director. So this I'm not gonna give you the plots or anything like that, but the characters when I watched it the other day and I really first of all, Viola Davis. Can we say that she's the best actor that ever existed? Meryl Streep has been my favorite actress. My actor, period. Meryl Streep. Denzel Washington. Viola Davis has not even come out of nowhere. She's just consistently brilliant. It's nothing to really be said. she she got up to 200 pounds. Like she gained almost 200. She didn't gain 200 pounds. She got up to 200 pounds, nearly like 195 for the role. Plus, they threw prosthesis on her body. Lost all of that for her next role that's happening now. And nobody has said a word about it. So, is that is that racist? I don't know. Is that sexist? Because men normally do it. Like Kristen Bell has done it. Joaquin has done it. Um, Robert De Niro has done it. Who did the mechanic? Did I mention him? You know, like people, these men have done it. Men are good at gaining 20 pounds, 50 pounds, 100 pounds, and then shedding it off, and being like critically acclaimed for having done that. Why is where's the critically acclaimed? But it's different time. I get that we're all home and everything is social media and it went straight to Netflix, right? But that's a question. I'm left with a question. Having watched this woman transform her body, her posture, you got to see it. I'm not gonna tell you it's the best thing ever. I loved it because I'm just a groupie for August Wilson. Is it because it was August Wilson's play and the George Wolf director and these, you know what I mean? Like it comes to play like, oh, is it not brilliant because of the elephants that are behind the camera and in front of the camera? You know what I mean? Is it that? Or is it just an oversight? Or is it happening in Samines? Are you kidding? It's in the papers every day. You don't know that? You don't know anything because you don't look at you know what I mean? But that's the question that I have. So what I loved about this play, it's not a play, it's a movie based on a play, is when you break it down, it was in 1927 is when the time was. I think he wrote it in the 80s. But it's the character, the guy who died. I should know his name. Chadwick. His character, he's like young and talented. He's like the most talented thing there, right? As far as the music ability, he's like this. He's the best, and because he's the best, he expects to get his justice. He expects to get what's his, and it doesn't actually happen the way he thinks about it. But he's young and dumb, right? Young and dumb. And what's in there for me, what I received from watching this was he tells a scene about something happening to his mother, something brutal happening to his mother, and him as a kid had to see it. And it's it's un it's just there with him, and it's like on his sleeve, and he's edgy because it's undiagnosed. It's never been handled, right? It's unresolved trauma in this man's character. And if you watch it, you can see, I mean, that's what's there. And it's painful to watch it because, and it's nothing's heavy handed, but like I could sit there with a pencil and paper and start to break down characters and the conflicts and things like that, which I do with some stuff. And like if I want to understand, and mimic some things, like okay, how did that? Why would he do that? Why did that make sense? Oh, he's the killer. You know, oh, he's the killer. And an hour later, it's like, oh, he is a killer. How do you know that? Because they told us, but I was paying attention. But there's that aspect of this character who's like young and dumb, and he's the best, and he just wants to be acknowledged as the best, and he doesn't want to play again. He don't play the rules. But they talk about he was young, and there's an old dude in there. I don't know his name at all. He used to be in a different world. He was a professor who he married Jaleesa, and that's when I stopped watching it because at that age I couldn't understand why a teacher would date a student. But not getting that in the university, everybody's an adult, But that actor, the actor who married Jalise, does this make sense to anybody? It's like, what is a different world, and who is Jalisa, and why do you know her name? And I remember her name because Sinbad sang the song, "You Did Not Fool Me, Jalisa. I knew it was you. Your accent didn't fool me." That ta-da, right? So he's there, and he's old, and he's all about like us, and we need to do things. But the young dude is all about I. So it's the battle of we versus I, right? We can do things together as a team. He's not the I. He's not a team player at all. He's not. He's like, I'm doing this for my money, but I'm going to get my own band. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. So there's that battle. There's the battle of I and we. There's the battle of young and old. There's also the battle of sex, right? The sex, like Ma Rainey is a woman who is attracted to women. She has a girlfriend. So there's that, and she's the boss. She's clearly the boss. She has a white manager. She's the boss of the thing. It doesn't happen until I want it. I want a Coke. I want this. This is what I say. This is how it goes. Fire him, hire him. Like she, and you got to think, right? The women's movement. When did women? When was it? 68? Like when did women? I forget exactly when it was. It was 1968. Was that the time of the women's movement? This was written for the 20s. So to think that a black woman, and this is a real, what I didn't know, this is a real character. This is a real person. It's a real band. The story's not necessarily real, right? But this is real. This is a real character. So there's that woman who has power. She's telling white men what to do in the time where, what? You don't tell us what to do. You don't tell us anything. First of all, you're black. You don't tell us anything. You're a woman. You don't tell us anything. But they were listening, and they had to listen. So there was that conversation. Then the door. Then I'm gonna wrap up, right? I'll wrap up the door. From the moment Chadwick walks in, he has an issue with this door, which is brilliant. It's always a thing. It's a motif, and it's a situation where he's fiddling with this door. He wants it to open so badly, but it just won't open. Open, scenes go, and he comes back. He's bothered by the door, and it's like, okay, what's the door? Eventually, he kicks open the door towards the end. Kicks it open. He finally gets out because he's upset because something happened. I'm not going to tell you what. Kicks it open, and there's this wall, right? In it is this wall. It's all the way up to the top. It's like this. It's like 5 stories high, and almost like looks like a prison when he walks in. And you look up, and so he opens it, and there's a wall. It's nowhere to go. To me, the conversation that comes up for something like that is like the opportunity, the black experience. This is yet again another black experience. I don't know if that was in the written play or if George C. Wolfe added that. The door not opening, right, which I think was the play, is opportunity. We don't get opportunities. It doesn't open. And I'm the best. And I'm still not getting my opportunity for no other reason than I'm a black person. And we know back then, there's nothing to be explained about that. But then to have it open and then there's a wall there, I think that speaks to even when you get past the door, it's still no opportunity for you, right? And that's poetic. That's poetically, beautifully written about the black experience. So if someone doesn't understand what it's like to be black in America today, still, right? It's very different. There's been some changes. There's opportunities. But so much. It's okay. You can eat. You can live next to us. You can, right? You can have some things. You can live a certain kind of life. But there's still a block. Like my mother never said like you got to work twice as hard to get half of the credit. I didn't grow up. My mother was more like, my mother was into the other approach of the system. She's like, yeah, you get what you can. You do that. You do a little of this. If they don't let you in, you kind of, that was my upbringing, which I'm here, right? Today I have no complaints. Had to do a little unwashing, but I'm here. But this conversation you hear time and time again, you're going to have to work twice as hard to get half of the credit, to get half of it. If you get any, it's gonna be half. You're gonna have to be twice as smart, twice as fast, twice as talented, twice as talented. So that's what came up for me. I wanted to talk about this. It's really it's multi layered, and it's old, but it's still present today, right? It's still very present. And when I looked at it and I looked at it again, I watch these things. I really get into watching and questioning and having no one to question. So I just drive people in my house crazy, especially my partner who's like, "Yo, dogs, please don't talk to me about any of that." But she'll listen. She'll what do you call? She'll humor me. And if I catch her at the right time, she'll play. She'll play. So anyway, that's what I got for today. Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. You should watch it. It's pretty good. But if you want to take what I'm saying and see anything, don't see anything. Buy Fences and read it. It's an easy read. It really is, and it's he the Decker. The Decker plays. So I'm gonna tell you something quickly about August Wilson. I don't know a lot. I know he has a black mother, had a black mother, white father, 5 siblings. The father left, right? So when I found, I'm like, he left, which men can do, right? Men is mama's baby, daddy's maybe, dad's go, and that's nothing. That's not anything. That's nothing special. That's not like, oh my God, he left. But he left. So August Wilson dropped out of school after having written a paper, and a teacher told him that he plagiarized it. So this is a conversation about a genius, right? Black genius. He wrote a paper at was he ninth grade that the teacher could not fathom that he wrote this. Now I don't know if she couldn't fathom because he wrote it because he's this little biracial. That's a kind way to call it, or because it just was so well written that she just was like, "Well, where'd you get this from? Like, you copied this from somewhere, from somewhere." So he drops out, and he doesn't drop out and just go run the streets. You know what I mean? Like doing some of the things that I've done, like a little baby hoodlum. And he goes to the library, which is dope. He went to the library and went to the library and read plays and read and self-educated himself. And that brings up what I had been talking about to my friend about schooling. Like, where are you able to, can you self-educate? Can you learn something? Can you look up something online and actually watch it? Can you implement some of the steps and actually get that thing done? Maybe you don't need a degree, you know, um, or like me, I know I cannot do that. That's very difficult. I need a deadline. And I need a teacher to tell me this, and I need to be able to talk to the teacher after the class. And I need this question like, wait, what did you say? What did you mean by that? What is a serf exactly? Oh, it's not a slave, but it's what? Oh, they could put themselves in indentured servitude. You know what I mean? Like, what does that mean? And actually have somebody break it down. And I'm thinking about what the Cherry Orchard, the person who ended up buying it was a child of a serf, and it was a big deal that now this person bought it. Cherry Orchard is pretty good. Cherry Orchard is pretty good. So, I mean, I think they're all great. So me saying they're pretty good is nothing. I'm like, what? These are masterpieces, and they are. They are. And I just want August Wilson's work to be included. And it comes down to the teacher, right? The teachers can pick whatever they want. Shakespeare is without a doubt a must that you have to. So any professor is going to have to teach you that. George Wolfe is how I was introduced. They gave you George Wolfe, which was light, but it was heavy but light. He has this book called The Colored Museum. I have the book. I have it. It starts off with like the slave ship airlines. It's like a vignette of 10 little plays, 10 scenes. And it talks, it's like, well, instead of the seatbelts, it's like put your shackles on and There will be no drumming, and it's 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 brilliant. And the fact that he now was directing Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which is the song, right? Sexual song, I think. So, but schools, it was that those were the type of things that we had to come across. August Wilson wasn't in that, and that's unfortunate. And I've been a professor. I'm a professor. I pick the film. So when I show films, the films I show are first of all Rocky, because Rocky's one of the best movies ever made. Just the structure of it. He was a bad guy in the beginning. At the end, he was fighting for a championship, and he was like a Shylock, which is like a what do you call it? Like a loan shark enforcer, and he couldn't read, and the whole not the story of Rocky. Not all this other stuff. All this other everything after Rocky 1 is garbage, but Rocky 1 is extraordinary. Rocky 1, I show Belly for color. I show She's Gotta Have It. I bring in black experience. So, and of course, no one's ever seen any of these movies. Not even She's Gotta Have It. So, excuse me. So some of the learning is the teachers bring in what they know and care about and think is important and think needs to be learned, right? So when it was my opportunity, I was able to bring in things that I thought were important. And some, it wasn't like I brought in a whole book of black films. So that wasn't the case. But there were certain films that were like, oh, you need to understand that films like this are being made. You need to understand his story, history, and you need to know his story. I'm thinking about Spike Lee. I had to tell him about Spike Lee and tell him about the movie and tell him about how he produced it and what happened. And, I'm pretty good. I'm a good professor. You have a lot of fun in my class. But I will tell you, you could get everything you want from YouTube if you're disciplined. And you could do it yourself, which is what August Wilson did. He was able to get to work and learn and become who he was. And his intention was to make the Decca plays. 10 decades, I think from 1900 to 2000. And he did it. He died doing the last one. Or during, like the last piece is when he was done, he ended up dying shortly after. And he was 60. Something with his liver. I don't know if he was drinking or what it was. Like I said, I don't know his full history. But this is a person that if I say something about August Wilson, that somebody else ever should be able to say, who? Because what he does for the black experience to translate without it being heavy-handed, eloquently, you can watch his work and you get the pain and the experience and the joy, right? The joy, because it's never about the oppression. It isn't right about this is the oppressive piece. It's just woven in. Some of the behaviors of the characters are from being undereducated, and there's brilliant people in there, or the conflict, and it's good and bad, and it's that one mistake you make that you never get over. The work is really great. It's really great work. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. I did want to talk about the black experience, and I don't know of a much better way than to have access to some of his written work, because he does it great. I'm sure there's other more flavorful, decorated people, right? I don't know all the work, but I know that work, and I know that I've never been disappointed. I think I read 8 of the 10. It's just good stuff, and it really is. He's from Pittsburgh. Most of the pieces are in Pittsburgh, which is a rough little area. Even today, it's Steelers, right? It's rough. But anyway, I'm gonna wrap up. I'll thank y'all for hanging out with me on this Tuesday night. It is late. Take good care of yourselves. Love your daughters. That's it. I appreciate you for hanging out with me. Listen, take good care. I got some things on my screen right now that I got to move before I can close this out. Like right now, I'm like, did you make sense? What you going on a tangent? You love, love, love some August Wilson, but I do though. I do. I really do. I rocks with him. The language, the language is funny. It's sounds like my house. I kid you not. It really sounds like, yeah, and a lot cleaner. But nah, sometimes it gets in there. And you're gonna hear the N word a lot. But I guess maybe I have a different ring when it's said by us. I don't know. Anyway, you take great care. Love, love, love your daughters. Take great care of yourself. Oxygen mask. But you gotta put that oxygen mask on yourself first. And then you could take care of everybody else. Or else you're gonna have some breakdown and go insane. Probably. I'm probably pretty right about that. I don't know.